What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. As always, I am your host, Pee Wee the Plug, 1/4 through the wire, number one Knicks fan in the world, aka Mr. Know-It-All. And what an incredible night we just had at the NBA draft. Now, I will keep it real. I'm currently watching the draft right now. The TV is behind the camera, and the first round just wrapped up. So this draft recap and reaction or whatever is specifically for the first 30 picks that we just saw. We'll do the full draft winners and losers in the next coming days. But I think this first round deserves an instant reaction. It was a lot that just went on. One of my favorite drafts in a long time because we had movement and we had unpredictability. A word that y'all have heard me use throughout the playoffs about how great and special these playoffs were because they reminded me of the NCAA tournament with all the unpredictable action that was happening. And the draft continued that same theme that we got in the playoffs. 1 through 3 was exactly what we all expected. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, and then we get down to Evan Mobley with the Cavaliers. And then 4, I don't necessarily want to call 4 a curveball, but it also wasn't the fastball we were expecting. We had, some rumblings that Scotty Barnes was having some late, climbing up the ladders or late movement in mock drafts or interesting teams and whatnot. I definitely was anticipating that if he was going to be taken, that the Cavaliers would maybe do some type of trade with the Magic and get 5 or 8 or something like that. But the Raptors took him. I know some people that I talk and communicate with that had said that they could see this happening. So it wasn't that bit of a shocker. But because we came this close to the draft and the Scotty Barnes talk had kind of settled, I just figured that he would have gone to the Magic. I did get a report or did get some information that he wouldn't fall past the Magic. But it was still a slight shocker. So I won't call it a curve, Scotty Barnes going to the Raptors, but I would call it like a changeup or a slider, something that was just a little off. And then after that, we got Jalen Suggs going to the Magic. And then what I would call the curveball was Josh Giddey going to the Thunder. And that's where I really want to start and break down the draft. I got all 30 picks right on the side of me to really remind me and keep me fresh on what just happened. The Josh Giddey pick was surprising as hell, especially because the Thunder do have a lot of guards, and this isn't the only guard that they drafted. But another thing that I want to communicate with Thunder fans is you have to understand that you have a youth movement going on, right? It's important to know who your team is, what your team does, and the position that your team in. And I feel like a lot of Thunder fans that spoke to me, they don't really grasp what they're doing. You're in the youth movement. So right now you're just trying to accumulate as much talent as you can. It's not about drafting a guy when there is this guy at that position or that guy at that position. You guys are just trying to accumulate as much talent as you can, bring it to Oklahoma City, and develop it. Essentially, a lot of these guys on the Thunder roster are assets, if we're being honest. You know what I mean? A lot of them are truthfully assets. And that's all they're going to be. They're going to be flipped. And some are going to be kept if they're that good, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But we even heard some rumblings, not that I believe that the Shai for the number 1 pick or anything of that was real, but what was real is that the fact that Shai isn't so untouchable as everybody made him out to be, which I think is also a slight obvious. Everybody at some point has some availability, obviously. But I think everybody looked at Shai at the level of like a untouchable. It never will be traded, but it's like, hey, it's possible. So the Josh Giddey one was a little bit of a curveball. I'm not mad at it because the Oklahoma City Thunder usually does a good job developing and drafting. I know a lot of Thunder fans wanted Book Night here, but we saw that he failed, and we'll get to him. But I trust that front office. Josh Giddey is a really special player. Also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a 2 guard, so they can coexist in the backcourt. They just have a lot going on. They're going to develop talent. A lot of these guys are going to be assets. Thunder fans, trust your front office and trust Sam Presti. They haven't done anything to not gain your trust at this point. This is a team that drafted James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Jeff Green, Steven Adams. Like, they have a great Reggie Jackson, a great history of drafting and making the right decisions. And I think they have earned the right for y'all to trust them, even if it isn't the exact pick that you may want. At 7, because Josh Giddey was taken in the Thunder, Kuminga went to the Warriors. Hard to get a grasp on Kuminga, just because you know that the Warriors could definitely trade him still. But it was nice to see Kuminga fall there if they do somehow decide to keep him. I'm a little bit disappointed back-to-back years. The Warriors really got us going with these trades on draft nights and whatnot. And 2 consecutive years, they did not trade anything. So that was a little downer. Franz Wagner, one of my favorite players in this draft. I don't want to say favorite players, but a guy I really like in this draft. Went to the Magic. Now, I like Franz Wagner. I really wanted him to go to the Kings. But what's interesting about the Franz Wagner pick is I think that the Magic, I will say, not that this is a necessarily terrible or bad pick, but I would have loved to have seen them go at book night. You know what I mean? You had done a good job of getting Jalen Suggs. He fell right in your lap. And I think the next vacant thing was the shooting guard position. You know, they're going to make Terrence Ross expandable because he doesn't fit the timeline, and you can get some value for him to a competitive team. But I feel like that 2 spot is vacant, and that would have been a nice 5 and 8 pick of getting your future backcourt. Jalen Suggs, James Bouknight, you have Chuma Okeke, you have Jonathan Isaac, you have the front court with Wendell and Mo Bamba, and I think now getting Suggs, it makes Markel's future a little murky. I think he could probably be on the move. Maybe not instantly, but it's hard to see them going with a team that's going to have Suggs, Markel, Cole, R.J. Hampton. But I really think that they could have took James Bouknight. Like I said, I like Franz Wagner. And maybe Jonathan Isaac's health is a bit of a concern for them. Maybe that's it. But I do look at their front court with Wendell and Mo Bamba. Then I look at Isaac and Chuma Okeke, and it makes me a little nervous, or it makes me feel that they're getting a little cluttered in that front court. So I really did wish they went with Bouknight. At 9, probably in my opinion the worst pick in the first round. And all of my draft talk, whether it was an appearance on somebody else's podcast or show, whether it was through the wire, whether it was my own draft videos on my personal YouTube channel right here at Pee Wee the Plug. I talked a lot about Davion Mitchell being a very good prospect. I like Davion Mitchell. I think he's a good player. I think he can have a good career. But he was dealt a tough hand because a lot of the teams in the top 10 area really didn't need his service. And I think out of any team in the top 10, the Kings were probably one of the top teams that absolutely didn't need his service. And it was a bit of a head scratcher, and it was good to see that it wasn't only me. But I mean, for you to have De'Aaron Fox, you drafted Tyrese Halliburton, you're making Buddy Hield, available. It looks like Marvin Bagley's future with them isn't the brightest. Rashawn Holmes is looking to get $80 million this offseason. Not sure if you guys are going to give it to him. Would have been nice for them to get somebody that they may have been able to add to that core. Not saying Davion Mitchell won't be able to contribute in any way, but I think the point guard position with De'Aaron Fox was kind of a position that they could have not have used a top 10 pick for. I think we have a player at the caliber of De'Aaron Fox, even though you have a youth movement going on, I think you want to add something that can you want to spread everything around. And I think there was some opportunities with Moses Moody, who went a few picks later to Golden State. Trey Murphy III is up here. Alpharine Şengün is up here. There was just a lot of different talent that they could have got versus, wasting their top 10 pick at a position that they are building around, essentially. Their best player is a point guard. So that was a bit of a hair scratcher for me. Ziaire Williams was a surprise. I'm not saying that I hate the pick. I'm learning to loosen up on teams taking guys premature than what they may have been available for, because we saw the Suns take Cam Johnson at 11 those years back, and we look at the role and the impact he's had on their team. Maybe Ziaire Williams can be some similar there. I will say, though, I had some preferred options above Zaire Williams. He had to really impress them in his workouts for them to take him above Moses Moody, who was still available, Corey Kispert, and then even my guy Trey Murphy III. Trey Murphy III really felt like a Memphis Grizzly type pick. And for them to go to Zaire Williams, who a lot of us projected to be in the teens to the 20s, was definitely surprising. So I'm interested to see how he performs for them and to really, in the coming days, get the intel on what happened and what transpired for them to feel comfortable to trade up and get Zaire Williams where there were other higher graded wings available. And then at 11, James Bouknight falls to the Hornets. I think the Hornets had a hell of a night. Man. A hell of a night. James Bouknight fell right in their lap. I kept telling people when I was doing my mocks that when I was doing it, what I was realizing is that somebody is going to fall. There's going to be some people that would fall because of the way that this draft was. There's a lot of teams that need this and need that, and this team doesn't need that. So it kind of makes players fall. James Bouknight isn't a guy that I thought would fall, but the draft is just so unpredictable. But yeah, he fell right to the Hornets, and I like that pick for them. I like that pick for them, and we can fast forward into the future. And at 19, this is a team that also was able to get Kai Jones, a guy that I kept raving about any chance I could for the Hornets to get him. He fits them perfectly, and for them to get him 8 picks later than their original pick, and then also get James Bouknight, they had one of the better draft nights. For those two guys to be on that roster. Terry Rozier contract is going to be on the last year of this upcoming season, if I'm not mistaken. So James Bouknight is another young talented, wing or guard that you can put in the backcourt with LaMelo. Whether you lose Rozier or retain him, whatever. Kai Jones fills that hole at the center spot. A home run pick to me. I think he has some very, very interesting upside, and I like that pick a lot. So they're definitely going to be winners when I do my winners and losers from draft night. At 12, Josh Primo. It was great to see Josh Primo go this early. I've been the biggest Josh Primo advocate all draft process. One of my favorites, if not my favorite player in this draft. Y'all saw how I reacted on Through the Wire when he came up. We got people that was in on the Knicks Fan TV stream yesterday when I brought him up. I've talked about him in my own personal draft videos on this channel. So for him to jump up to 12 when I was projecting him to be a steal in the back of the lottery, it was good to see everybody on Twitter be like, this is P's guy. Like the Spurs are watching you, P or whatnot. And it was so shocking. It was so shocking. Nobody knew Josh Primo would go this high. Probably not even Josh Primo. This is a guy that wasn't even invited to the green room. You know what I mean? So that is exciting. I cannot wait to see him play for them. Josh Primo, to me, is one of my favorites in this draft class for a reason. And the Spurs must know something that I know for them to jump all the way. They didn't trade down. They didn't give it a chance. They used their pick for Josh Primo, who is also the youngest player in this draft. And that dude is going to be talented, man. That dude is going to be talented. That was one of my favorite moments of the draft, was being in his Twitter spaces, talking to the people and whatnot. And all of a sudden, Josh Primo is taken, and everybody's reaction was just wild. And like, damn, P, your boy. My mentions was flooded. That was a really, really good moment. 13, Chris Duarte. I think this is the one that Mike predicted on the podcast. I can't remember, or did he have Chris Duarte going to the Grizzlies at 10? He may have had him going 10 to the Grizzlies. But yeah, Chris Duarte really reminds me of a Pacer. He's going to be a very good player. An older guy who's going to fit right in with Brogdon and Sabonis and Karis LeVert. He's the guy who's going to make jump shots and probably is going to be on a playoff team. I think that team can be a playoff team. I knew Rick Carlisle was going to want an older guy. That's why I had projected Davion Mitchell to probably go to them, because I know Rick Carlisle wants somebody who can come in and be plug and play instantly, and I think Chris Duarte is going to do that. Very, very reminiscent of a Pacers player, though. I think he's going to fit in with that basketball culture out there in Indiana, and they're going to have a nice team next year. And then Moses Moody falls to the Warriors. This is a guy that I had been projecting to the Warriors at 7. I kept telling people Moses Moody is just the perfect marriage with the Warriors, that I felt, man, even if 7 is earlier than he's projected, they should just get him because he fits everything that they do. So to see him end up being there and slip into 14 was nice. And I still stand on what I said, that he fits what they do. The 7+ foot wingspan to defend, the ability to play without the ball, catch and shoot, 1-2 dribble pull-ups off the pump fake in the mid-range area. He's going to be a real nice pickup for them. And I can't wait to see what they do with him. Do they keep him? Is he going to be involved in a future trade with Jonathan Kuminga? Is it just going to be Jonathan Kuminga and Wiseman, and they're going to cherish Moses Moody and keep him close to the? It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. And I think that's a good draft night for them. Whether they trade those two, which I highly think is likely, or even if they keep them, those are nice young pieces to be a part of that Golden State Warriors system development and just team. You know what I mean? For Jonathan Kuminga to learn from a Draymond and Klay Thompson. Same thing with Moody, learning from a Klay Thompson under a Steve Kerr tutelage. If they're going to teach you how to play good basketball, you're going to learn how to set good screens. You're going to learn how to come off screens, Moody. You're going to learn tips and things from Klay Thompson. That's a good space to be in for very, very young players like those guys. So I'm interested to see how that unfolds and develops. At 15, Corey Kispert. Obviously Washington did the big trade with the Lakers today, which won't be official until like August 6th. But for the most part, we know Russell Westbrook is now a Laker, and the Wizards are going to get KCP, Kyle Kuzma, and then Montrezl Harrell. Which I think is cool. I think those are some nice pieces to put around Beal. Eases up on a salary cap now that you don't have Russell Westbrook's $40 million, and then you draft a lights out shooter, Corey Kispert, who I think will help the Wizards. I think they needed that outside shooting. You have Rui, Beal, Bertans is a floor spacer. Kispert is going to be able to space the floor. I think maybe with a new change of scenery, new opportunity, in a defined role, Kyle Kuzma can get back to playing some good basketball. Montrezl Harrell will be a nice backup center. They also got Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky with the 22nd pick. He's going to help their front court. They have a nice stacked front court. They have Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford, Isaiah Jackson, Montrezl Harrell, Davis Bertans, Rui Hachimura, Corey Kispert. So they're Kyle Kuzma. They're going to have guys, and then they got KCP. That can be a nice competitive team if they're fully healthy. Can't wait to see what they do in free agency at the point guard position. That's really their biggest hole, and that's low key a nice team. That's a nice team to put around a 30-point scorer in Bradley Beal. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Alperen Sengun. Houston Rockets at the 16th pick. Houston, phenomenal. This dude is a real deal. Alperen Sengun is a monster to me. Like, old school 5. They already got Jalen Green with the 2nd overall pick. It was him or Mobley. You took the guard, and then you still were able to get a very good. But he's one of the top bigs in this class, right outside of Mobley. Footwork is incredible. Low post score, but can play and operate your offense from the top of the key, which is the new modern way to play. As it can make all type of passes. Defensively is the question marks for him. Is he going to be good enough to hold it down in the paint? I don't think he's ever going to be an above average rim protector, but that isn't always necessary. As long as you can actually hold it down and just be good enough, sometimes work. As we've seen with Jokic, he isn't your ideal rim protector, but he holds it down. And you put some other good defenders around him, and is a good team, is a good defense as a team, then you could thrive with him at the back anchor. I think him and Christian Wood gives you a bunch of different looks and a bunch of different ways to run your offense. Also, like I mentioned, you're bringing in Jalen Green. They also drafted Usman Garuba, who I predicted in my mock draft that came out earlier today, which is another exciting big man. And guess what he does opposite to Sengun? He defends. So that was great. They also got another young, exciting scorer with Josh Christopher. The Rockets really had a nice draft, and I can't wait to see them go forward in the future with that young youth movement. They're going to be a not-so-good team as far as wins and losses, but they're going to be extremely exciting. We're talking Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, Josh Christopher, Garaba, Sengun, Kenyon Martin Jr., they still have John Wall, who could maybe be some type of veteran for those guys, and we still have to see what they do with the second-round picks. So shout out to Houston. Very good draft for them. And then at 17, New Orleans takes my guy, Trey Murphy. This is a very good pick for them. I think a guy that's going to be an extreme, supreme role player, and that's exactly what they need to fill out this roster around Zion and Brandon Ingram. We saw the trade that they did with Memphis to get rid of Bledsoe and Steven Adams, open up some flexibility for them with the cap. You bring in Jonas Valanciunas, which is an upgrade at the center position. And now you bring in Trey Murphy, who's going to complement your core pieces. He's going to space the floor, give you upside defensively, and I think he can play off the ball with whoever you want to bring in at point guard, whether it's Kyle Lowry or some veteran, or if you retain Lonzo. And then again, he's going to mesh with Zion going downhill, because now Zion has a kick-out guy that just can just catch and shoot in those corners. Same with Ingram. That's going to be a very, very, very good pick for them. And I think they're getting on the right track after last year having an up and down offseason. The Aaron Nesmith miss and getting Kyra Lewis was a bit weird. So it's interesting. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is still there. They can bring back Josh Hart. The Pelicans are flipping the script and are getting on track, and I cannot wait to see how it pans out. At 18, Trey Mann. Again, the Thunder get another guard. This is one of my favorite guards in the draft. Again, just another talent that they'll be able to develop and give opportunity to, and he'll play, and he's going to have some nights when he light it up. They're going to be a nice, young, exciting team. Trey Mann, Josh Giddey, Theo Maledon, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Ty Jerome, Lou Dort, Pokusevski, Darius Baisley. They have a nice, fun team, and they're only going to continue to get more and more young assets with all of the draft picks that they have. They also, also Jalen Johnson to Atlanta with the 20th pick. I think that was great for them. A low risk, high reward pick. This is a guy coming into this year that was a projected top 10 pick. Had some different things happen at Duke, left the team, and that made him go down a bunch. Questions with his jump shot, but he kind of can be a John Collins if he fixed that jump shot. Reminds me of Aaron Gordon. Think he's gonna fit right in there, and for him to be able to be a guy to come off their bench now, it's going to be nice. And defensively, he has a lot of upside. I think the Hawks do a lot of good drafting. We don't talk enough about the Hawks drafting. They've really been impressive in the recent years with their draft picks. Keon Johnson, the Knicks traded their pick. This is a guy that was originally drafted with a Knicks pick that was traded to the Clippers. I was a guy that was saying Keon Johnson was going to fall. A lot of early hype as far as top 10. I didn't really see it from the get-go. But I do think this is a good spot for him. Falling in the draft for some of these guys is going to be very, very good. They're going to come in and play with good teams. Keon Johnson's situation, he's going to come in young and learn behind a Kawhi and Paul George, get playoff experience, and then the expectation isn't as high. He's going to thrive there, and he's going to pick up a lot of different things, and I think we're going to see him develop well over the years for the Los Angeles Clippers. We talked about Isaiah Jackson. We talked about Garuba. We talked about Josh Christopher. My Knicks finally pick at 25, Quentin Grimes. I like it. He's a New York Knick type of player that I think Thibs is going to really enjoy. Plays off the ball. Reminds me of Josh Hart. Can knock down shots. Was a former McDonald All-American. Very gritty, and is just a winning player. He does a lot of the little things, and I think he's going to fit right in with our culture and how we like to play defense. Thibodeau is going to love that dude. And then the last few picks, we got Bones Highland going to Denver. He fits right in with that culture of just buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets. Going to thrive with Jokic. Cameron Thomas, the best scorer in the draft, lands to Brooklyn somehow, some way. The rich get richer. That was very interesting. He's going to fill it up. Jaden Springer, do-it-all point guard from Tennessee. He's going to the 76ers. I predicted that. Day'Ron Sharpe, another way for the Nets to get richer by getting that big man, a young big man who is going to help them in their front court. They need help in their front court. And then to wrap it up, Utah took a surprising pick. Utah took Santi Aldama. And I heard a lot of things about him creeping up to the draft. That was surprising. I can't wait to see how he fits there. I did think they were going to take a guard like Ayo or something, Jared Butler, but we'll see how it works. As always, though, that was my recap. Hope y'all like it. Winners and losers soon. Peace.